I say this, parenting is something that we need to put our time into, and we've got to learn. So I just want to encourage you, please, okay, to come along and really, really make an investment into your parenting. Okay, so we're going to begin with the introduction of good enough parenting. And so my wife is going to introduce the first movie scene, and then we'll take it from there.
So in this Good Enough Parenting, we tried to put in some new movies for those of you who have been coming to Good Enough Parenting for a few years. So we hope you enjoy it. We're going to start off with a scene from an award-winning movie. This movie came out the same year that I graduated from high school. So that tells you how old it is. 1980, this won Best Picture, Best Director, and the young man won Best Supporting Actor at all of the Academy Awards. But in this movie, which is called Ordinary People, you're going to see a very ordinary family with a very nice house in America. And just think about how ordinary and how nice their life is in these first few scenes. And in a very healthy example, even though they've been married a while, they still have a good physical life. They come home from their date, they say hi to their son, they make love, and everything looks like a great family. Now, the reason I wanted to start off showing you this, I'm sure you're all waiting for the, what's the problem? You'll be seeing that a little bit later today, but I wanted you to see that in a family that looks very ordinary and very normal, there can be all sorts of things under the surface. And we'll hear more about that later today. But this is the teaser, okay? So we're going to be talking about this family a lot. I just wanted to show you this to get us started. So in the book, the introduction is called Parenting Matters. And we wanted to start off our book on Good Enough Parenting reminding parents how much parenting matters. And for me, one of the stories that I can't help but think of with our kids, who are 20 and 18, is something that happened when my son was 12 years old. He and I were talking about the idea of self-esteem. I was actually preparing a talk on self-esteem to give out in public, and I thought to myself, I should probably ask my kids what they think about self-esteem. So I took my son aside and asked him, I said, David, can I pick your brain and ask you some questions? And he was like, sure, Mom. So I said, what would you do if a kid at school told you that you were stupid? And if you know David, you can almost picture his little grin, but he just laughed and he said, well, I would just tell him he was stupid. And I said, okay, what would you do if your teacher said you were stupid? And then he said, well, I probably wouldn't tell my teacher that, but I would think it. And I said, okay.
Today is a big session, and we're going to cover quite a bit this afternoon, okay? So we're going to do the remaining of session 2, session 3, and session 4. And tomorrow we'll do session 5. Okay, great. All right, what I want to do is I want to start off by reviewing, okay? So I hope you got some insight even into yourself, okay? And remember, our coping styles do vary with different people. You may be an avoider with your spouse, but an overcompensator with your kids, okay? Or you may have various different combinations, and that's okay. Most people have different combinations, but you really need to know which is your predominant one. Now you may say, well, why do I need to know that? Because if you can get insight into yourself, you will have a better chance of finding breakthroughs, and you will also be able to then relate that to the different kinds of exasperation interactions. Okay? And so I'll explain that. So anyway, later. So please take time. And if you don't understand it as yet and you're not sure whether you're an avoider or a surrender, it doesn't matter. Take time. When the book is out, read it again. And things may even become more clear as we, go through the remaining sessions. Now, the main thing is to not exasperate your children, and that's a big thing we talked about, okay? And the 4+1 core needs, okay? Just remember that. All of us can miss out. We're not perfect parents, but this program is simply calling on all of us to be good enough, okay? So that's what I believe, and that is we can all be good enough, okay? So good enough doesn't mean good enough lah. No, that's not what I mean. All right? Or who cares? Good enough means, all right, I'm not there, and let me get insights into myself. Let me learn some things so that I can meet the core emotional needs of my children. So, what do I really, really want you to get out of this whole program? Here's the thing I want you to understand. You don't have to memorize all the 18 life traps. So let me say that again. Isn't that good news? Okay, you can give yourself a round of applause. Amen. You don't have to. Okay? You just got to know what it does to you, and you got to know at the very basic level that it's not healthy. How's that? Okay? What I really want you to understand are ways we go about what? Exasperating our kids. Sorry, this laser pointer doesn't work as usual. Okay, right side. All right, here we go. All right, can you see the pointer from here? Yeah, it kind of decreases in intensity. All right, so, okay. So the thing that I want you to understand here is exasperation interactions. How many there are? 8. And this is one of the main things I want you to understand. It's not the schemas. If you don't even remember the schemas or the life traps, it really doesn't matter. Okay? However, if you want to deepen your knowledge into, why people develop different negative thinking and schemas, then feel free. And the book will guide you and walk you through. But at the very basic level, you all need to know the different ways that we've been able to identify from our own research how parents exasperate their children. Okay? So I have here 8. Now you may say, why are some in red? Because these 4, right, they affect the domain of disconnection and rejection. Okay? So when you talk about connection, our good enough parenting, was conducted the last few days, and we're going to have the another 3 or 4 sessions next week, starting on Friday as well. So it's great to see all of you here, and I especially want to encourage all the fathers, and I say a big thank you to all of you fathers, okay? And I say this again, in a lot of parenting seminars, usually 80% of the participants are mothers, and fathers tend to feel, this is just not my cup of tea. So they feel out of place, they don't feel like this is where they belong, and yet I say this, that we can't do, we really cannot be effective parents. Mothers can't do the job by themselves, okay? The fathers need to get involved, and we believe very extremely crucial I remember the time when my first child was Sonia was born, and Karen went through all the labor and 9 months being pregnant. I asked myself, what part did I play? It was almost like playing golf. This is the analogy I use in my book. There are 18 holes, and Karen potted all the holes, and then at the end of the day, Karen and we got the trophy, and I lifted it up with her. But I felt like, well, what did I do? And so many fathers feel that way, okay? They feel like the part that they play is very, very small, it's insignificant. And I have to say this, after being married now for 25 years, and I have to say this, even at the time when your wife is pregnant, your role has already kicked in. It is so important. From the time of birth, it's amazing the role you play as a dad. Okay, so at another time, not during this session, we will conduct a workshop just on fatherhood. Okay, there's just too much material to squeeze that in. Although the book has an entire chapter devoted to fatherhood. Okay, so it's all there, and we want to put it all together, and I don't want to rewrite another book. I've had enough. I almost jumped off the balcony this time. No, it's okay. It took a lot of work, but I'm just so happy it's finished. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and begin the session today. I want to start off with some review, okay? Now, there are altogether 4 plus 1 core emotional needs. Oops. And this is the model that we use. The Good Enough Parenting uses what we call the 4 plus 1. Every parent needs to know what the 4 plus 1 means, okay? The first core emotional need is this: connection and acceptance. And we spent the last few days really, exploring this core need, understanding it, really, getting our minds wrapped around this core emotional need. So this is the first one, the core emotional need of connection and acceptance. The second one is called healthy autonomy. And this is the drawing that goes with it. Sometimes, you may wonder, why do we pick this drawing? This is just a little girl playing by herself. And notice the healthy distance between the parents and the child. There is guidance, encouragement by the parents from a distance. But the child is left to be autonomous, to do it by herself. And the problem with a lot of parents today is they go right there and they build the castle themselves. And then reprimand their child for not building a nice sandcastle.
Tonight to talk about reasonable limits. And I love all the core needs. I love talking about all the core needs. But I feel that sometimes as parents, reasonable limits is the one that we struggle with the most. Maybe we